sky's not blue.
You need to understand that when the time comes, I'm going to be taking over.
Welcome back to the Cult House Podcast. I'm your host, the Scholar of Spite and the Saturday Night Delight, Roger Riddell. Joining me today, he is a guitarist and bassist who has performed with the likes of Dope, Murderdolls, Joan Jett and the Blackhearts, Amen, Trashlight Vision, and the Dark Party, and he is also the co-founder of Catfight Coffee, Acey Slade. How are you doing today, Acey?
What's up, man? How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I checked my mail this afternoon and I had this in there. So having a pretty good day overall.
Oh, nice. Thank you so much, man. Thank you.
Yeah. No, I love the extent that you all have gone to with the packaging too. Cause like the envelope has the logo on it. There's like this fantastic tissue paper that it's wrapped in. It's an amazing presentation altogether.
Thank you. You know, it's funny when you asked me how my day was, it was like a day of roadblocks with all those things, you know, and it's like, you know, the truth is it's like real easy to phone it in with some things or to just put your name on something and all that jazz. But, you know, we don't do that. You know, we try to make everything thought out every step along the way. So thank you for acknowledging that, because I kind of needed to hear that today.
You know, I think that like all of that ultimately matters in the overall package of things, because it's like it extends even to music. Like as much as people don't want to think about like the image, you know, mattering as much in the product, it does.
No, absolutely. And it's funny you should say that, because I guess I'll just call it out. You know, Rancid's my favorite band, probably overall. And they have a record called the 2000 record that just has a skull and crossbones on the front. And it's probably my least favorite record of theirs. And a friend and I were discussing it. It's like, man, that band's catalog is just so spot on. It's like, yeah, but that 2000 record's a little. And my friend turned to me and he goes, yeah, but I knew that before I even put it on play. I'm like, well, how did you know? And he goes, well, look, if they didn't put any thought into the album cover, what's to make me think that they put any thought into the music? And I was like, and that stuck with me. Like, I mean, I was already that way anyway, but you know, this wasn't somebody who paid attention to, like, he's kind of a crust punk dude. And so for him to kind of put that in there, like I think about that with everything I do now, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, that's even one of those things that it's something I've always kind of appreciated about Dope, because Edsel, I think, has always been very conscious of how the band is presented and the overall image around it.
Yeah. That's why we still work together after all these years, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I can remember in the early days, you all kind of had like the thing where everyone in the band all had dreadlocks.
Yeah.
And there's a month when I was in high school that I had dreadlocks because of that. And then I was just like, this is way more trouble than I thought it was going to be. And I shaved them off.
Totally.
Yeah. So this year is the 20th anniversary of the second album, Life, which saw you transition from bass over to guitar after a couple of lineup changes. So what was kind of the overall like vibe of things heading from Felons and Revolutionaries into Life?
I was just writing about this on my Patreon. It's really, you know, 2020 going from well, I guess that would have been 99 into 2000 into 2001. God, I feel like it's been this time vortex. But going from 2000 into 2001, it was really man, it was a really weird time, because we had a lineup change going into our second record, and that always looks a little weird as far as the continuity of a band, you know. And but the guys that we got in, we felt very strongly about, and we felt were really good. And we went to LA and we recorded the record with a producer who did the Korn record, the Linkin Park record. And overall, like we went from like not second guess. We weren't second guessing the lineup change at all, but just kind of second guessing like how it could be perceived. And then going and doing the record, feeling good about the record. We were all set. We were ready to go on tour. And then 9/11 happened. And when 9/11 happened, I don't know if you remember this or not, but like radio stations and video channels were banning anything that talked about flying, you know? And so we did a video for the song Now or Never. And in it, we're playing like in this glass cage. And then the fans like jump through the glass cage and then they start rocking out with us. It's a very positive thing. But because it showed people jumping through glass, the video got banned right away. So, and at that time, your video was your marketing tool. It was your calling card for the album. And we had it yanked right out from under us. And we were like, oh, this is not good. So we went from, you know, feeling really good, feeling very strong, and then just having everything pulled out from under us. And it is kind of funny because I put the record on the 20th anniversary of the release date and listened to it. And it was kind of funny because there's some lyrics in there and topics in the album that were almost like prophetic in a way, not calling Etzel a prophet at all. I don't want to go to that guy's head, but but you know what I mean? Like it was like almost like a foreshadowing. So yeah, it was a really weird time, you know, and to add that, right. And here's the other part of it that's really strange. We ended up getting dropped, and we ended up getting dropped because the record didn't perform, and the record didn't perform. And the record company at that point says, hey, we don't believe in this project anymore. There's nothing worthwhile here. So we're walking away, right? That's effectively what they're saying when they drop you. Here we are 20 years later, and Die Motherfucker Die has, I checked it was 1.5 million plays. I forget how many. No, it's more than that. I think it's, let me pull this up right now because I want to make sure I'm right because I'm proud of this. There we go. So Die Motherfucker Die, from the band that they thought was being dropped, it's like that they elected to drop, ended up with yeah, I think it's 150 million plays or some shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I know people who still love that song. I mean, that whole album, I think, has it's one of the strongest albums in the Dope catalog.
Thank you.
Yeah, just from like beginning to end. It feels like an evolutionary step up from Felons and Revolutionaries, and it's kind of like, I think of it as kind of like the definitive Dope album, because
Wow.
I never really kind of lumped you guys into like the whole nu metal thing that was going on at the time, because comparatively you guys had like, there was kind of like a sleaziness to it that a lot of the other bands didn't have. And it was almost kind of like gutter glam, you know?
Yeah, we're still a rock and roll band at the core of it. Yeah.
Yeah, like the guitars were more interesting than a lot of the other bands that were out at the time. And you kind of tell that I don't want to like put the other bands in that genre down, but like it felt like there's a little bit more musicality, you know?
Oh, thank you. Thanks. Yeah, especially on that second record, because Virus and Racy really brought a lot of that to the table. I also think that the No Regrets record is really, really good too.
Yeah. Yeah, that one
And I had nothing to do with that record. So
yeah, that one to me kind of feels almost like, it's almost kind of like a metalcore record.
A little bit.
Yeah.
It goes there a little bit.
Yeah, but it's that also just kind of goes back to how smart Edsel is overall with just kind of understanding the direction that everything was going.
Sure.
But yeah, so one of the things I've always wondered about Life is that in the liner notes, there's a page for the lyrics for Another Day Goes By, but it doesn't appear on that album. it's not until like the third album, Group Therapy, that song actually gets used. So I've always kind of wondered if that was originally planned to be on Life, or what happened with that.
You stumped me. I wish I had an answer for that. I don't have one.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
But that's funny. I didn't even think about that. It wouldn't surprise me if I don't know, like this is just me guessing, I don't know, but it wouldn't surprise me. Like Life was definitely more melodic than Felons and Revolutionaries. I don't know, and that's a very melodic song, so I don't know if there's somewhere a decision of like, okay, like we have Now or Never, and we have Jenny's Crying, and a bunch of the other songs that are on there. So I don't know if it was like let's pump the brakes on the melodicness. You might get some special guest cats here, by the way.
Oh man, they're totally welcome to show up.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. I mean, it really kind of fits overall with the coffee brand.
Exactly.
Yeah. So speaking of Catfight Coffee, how did that come about? Like, what led you to co-found a coffee company?
A couple things. I had started another company, coffee company, about a year or two before, and it just didn't work out with my partners. And it was great timing how everything worked out. Didn't work out with my partners. I knew I had to part ways with them, and that was right when COVID kicked off. So my wife, who's my business partner, we needed to do something to survive. I mean, touring is still affected to this day by all that. There's touring stuff that I'm supposed to do in the early part of next year that may end up not happening because of COVID things, and it's nobody's fault, but it's very frustrating. So so I always had a love for coffee. I mean, literally ever since I was a kid, I loved coffee, and I feel so lucky to have a second love that I can, get out there to the world and share with people, and they seem to enjoy it. So, and I also saw like that, like there's a market for something that, like, it seemed like any of the coffee that was marketed towards people, alternative people, it was real low quality coffee that had like a super high caffeine rate. It didn't necessarily taste good. And I felt like they were missing the mark on branding too, and packaging. So we felt like we could create a coffee company that wasn't just a coffee company, but it was a community. So every week we do community live streams with people. We're very involved in the local punk rock flea market community. We're really big on supporting local vendors. I'm fortunate that I have a platform to exploit all that on, and that I can really help other companies out. Sometimes, like, not for nothing, but sometimes it's tough for some small companies because they're all small companies and they're trying to help each other, but they don't really have much of a reach. And I do because of the bands. So it really works out good. And it makes me feel really good to help other people out and see it reciprocated, and just knowing that I'm getting good coffee out there to people.
Yeah. And one of the things that I noticed, just aside from how great this coffee tastes, like I'm drinking the black pumpkin right now, and just like the pumpkin flavor of it really kind of shines through. And I'm
Cool.
looking forward to like pairing this with the pumpkin bread that I usually make around this time of the year. But one of the things that I noticed when I was ordering too is that you all have a really strong merch game alongside just the coffee.
Oh, thank you. Well, we that's kind of where we hope to see it go. Like we kind of hope to see it be the merch be kind of part of it too. Like we see it as a lifestyle, and at the core of it is coffee. You know what I mean? That's what brings everybody together. That's what pulls the whole thing in and ties the room together. But yeah, and thank you for saying that about the merch, because we worked really hard on it.
Yeah, I mean, that's another thing that really ties back to the music business too, is that if you look at like every band that's been successful and had longevity, they've had a really successful merch game alongside their music. And it's almost like, to be successful now, your band has to basically become a lifestyle brand, and it's kind of like this mold that I guess Kiss created.
Yes. Yeah, it's Kiss and God, I mean, Kiss are the kings of it, obviously. But yeah, you're right. And yeah, I guess part of that too just comes from like, you know, to your point, the bands I've always played in have always been visually strong. And so I just kind of think of each coffee that we put out as an album. And I think of it as something that people would want to put on their shelf and be like, yeah, that's my coffee, almost like we used to do with albums, you know?
So I know you're a big Monster cereals guy. Have you ever thought about hitting up General Mills about doing like a Count Chocolate?
Yeah, well, we did. And the reply was, unfortunately, we've had to downscale our staff right now. So we can't afford to talk to smaller businesses. It's like, hold on. If you're downscaling your staff, that means you're not doing good financially, you know? And I'm coming to you telling you that I want to give you money because you have to pay a royalty. So I'm coming to you with an idea on how to give you some money. And you're saying we can't be bothered because we don't have enough staff to deal with it. Hello.
Yeah, dude, if you did that, would you also do coffees that were themed after the other Monster cereals too?
Oh yeah. I'd want to do Frankenberry and Blueberry and Count Chocula too. I'd probably skip Fruit Brute, you know.
Yeah.
Not too many people remember him anyway. But no, and in fact, I'm gonna hit him back up again in a few months because I know who the contact is now. I wouldn't want to do it till probably closer to fall anyway. So I'm gonna hit him up again in 6 months, be like, look, there's money on the table that I want to give you. Let's do it, you know. Because for me, everything's got to be officially licensed. If it's not officially licensed, like I see both sides to it. Like as an artist, it's like I've had my shit bootlegged and that fucking sucks. And then on the other side of it too, it's like with a lot of bootleg stuff, there's no quality control. So with certain franchises that have kind of been abandoned, there's all these shitty bootlegs out there that nobody has any quality control over. So I see both sides to it. Then there also is a third side where people make some fucking awesome bootlegs. And then it's like, shit, you know? When I was in the Murderdolls, we used to bootleg the bootleggers. Like we would see a bootleg shirt and we'd be like, you know, we'd be like, oh man, that's bullshit. Well, fuck it, we'll make it, you know?
So I noticed that you left out Fruity Yummy Mummy. Was that purposefully or
I forgot. No, I forgot about Yummy Mummy. I forgot about
he's
him.
underrated.
Yeah. Well, if I could get a box of it now, I probably wouldn't eat it because it's probably not too good. So
Yeah, no, if you did the Frankenberry coffee, would you try to figure out what dye to put in it to produce the Frankenberry stool?
No. No, we try to keep everything as natural as we can. Yeah.
It's like that's one of my favorite like weird random facts is that Frankenberry has a medical condition named after it because it turned a bunch of kids poop pink and scared the shit out of their parents.
Dude, I went on a fat like a juice fast, and it included a lot of beet juice, and I didn't know beet juice would come out the other end. And I was about to, I completely forgot about this. I was about to do a show and I took a dump and I looked and the bowl was red. And I was like, what the fuck, man? You know, I was like, what? Like, look, I'm shitting all this blood, you know? And
dude, I did the same thing.
You
with
just drank a lot of beet
years
juice.
Ago.
What's that?
I had the same thing happen with beet juice a couple years ago.
I didn't know.
I didn't know either.
Dude, your shirt's awesome. Who made that?
Yeah, I got this at the Museum of the Weird in Austin. And
okay.
Yeah, I'm like, this is fucking gross, but like I've only worn it like 5 times and I've never washed it because I'm afraid of like just breaking the screen printing up on it because it's like the old school printing where it's just kind of painted on instead of now everyone kind of sublimates things so that it doesn't do that so much.
Yeah. Don't dry it. That's the key. Let it air dry.
Oh, I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah. Yeah, because that plastisol, like it starts to crack and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's one of my favorite like horror shirts that I've had. 'Cause
What's
it's
at the
got, like,
bottom? Let me see what you
so
got
it's
going on.
Nosferatu,
Sick.
and it's got like the German Phantom der Nacht.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite interpretations of Dracula, just because it's so creepy and weird looking. And
Totally.
you can put like my favorite thing to do with the original like black and white silent one is to play it and put Electric Wizard over top of it, because like just the vibe matches perfectly.
Cool.
Yeah.
Maybe you're gonna find out that they sync up and you're gonna enter some sort of psychedelic portal, you know? You're gonna find out that watching Nosferatu while listening to Electric Wizard is the cure for Asperger's, you know?
I mean, maybe I don't I don't think I have Asperger's, so I don't know if I've got like a good control study for
Maybe you don't have Asperger's because you watched Nosferatu listening to Electric Wizard. Maybe you did. Maybe you cured yourself. We'll never know now.
Yeah, I mean, this could be the great medical oddity of our time.
Hey man, fucking Frankenberry's got a stool named after him. Weirder things have happened.
One of the other really visually strong bands that you've been in is the Murderdolls.
Mhm.
And that's coming up on, I guess, the 20th anniversary of Beyond the Valley of the Murderdolls next year.
Yes.
You joined that band after their previous guitarist Trip Eisen had left. So I've always kind of wondered, like, they re-released the album with new tracks added on later on. Did you play on the tracks that were added?
No, that was all Joey and Wednesday.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah, because I never knew if you had played on those or if you had basically like exclusively been a live member.
No, we were on break between tours. They kind of threw that together. We knew that we were going to do the cover of White Wedding, and Joey, can play everything, and he's just the master musician, So
Yeah, I mean, that dude was super talented. Just from his time in Slipknot, he was one of their like core handful of like songwriters in that band. There's like maybe like I think 3 or 4 guys in that band that wrote most of the music.
yeah, I mean, most of it was Joey and Paul.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's very under. People don't really talk about what a great songwriter Joey was because he was such a ferocious drummer, but they forget that a lot of Slipknot's hits, he was a big part of the writing process for. He wrote half the Murderdolls stuff. And then if you listen to that Roadrunner United record, the versatility really shines through in his ability to write. He's got like extreme metal stuff in there, and then he's got radio hit type stuff in there as well. So yeah, he was very versatile.
Yeah, I mean,
and good at it,
Yeah, just his approach to drumming on its own, I think, was kind of a gateway for a whole generation, exposing them to like death metal and things like that, because he brought that influence into what Slipknot did.
Yeah, he was like that generation's Tommy Lee.
Yeah, that's exactly what I've always thought, because he was just a consummate showman behind this kit.
Totally.
Yeah,
and behind the guitar.
Yeah. Before you joined the Murderdolls, were you ever a fan of Wednesday's previous band, the Frankenstein Drag Queens?
Oh yeah, I mean, that was it's weird how it all works together. I had a band called Vampire Love Dolls, and we did shows with Frankenstein Drag Queens. We did one show together, but we were on each other's radars. And actually, when we were looking at members to come into Dope for the Life record, Wednesday was one of the guys whose names was brought up, and that kind of made me dive back into that Frankenstein Drag Queens catalog and really reappreciate it, and so yeah, I mean, I've always thought the world of Wednesday as an entertainer, as a performer, and everything, and so yeah, it's I always knew about him. And in fact, I mean, I even mentioned, not to take credit for it, because Wednesday deserves 100% of the credit for everything that he's done. But when we were talking about it, Tripp was still around, because we were talking about moving me to guitar and bringing in a bass player. Who could we get? And if you look on the inside of the Life record, I'm wearing a Frankenstein Drag Queens t-shirt in some of the photos. So yeah, I think, it was all like one incestuous pool, sort of,
Yeah. I mean, I've always really kind of appreciated that Wednesday kind of has this vibe to what he does, where it's like, if Alice Cooper and like a glam metal guitarist had a bastard kid, and that kid was raised on nothing but like the Ramones and Slayer and horror movies.
Yeah.
Like that's like kind of the vibe that he has.
Totally.
Yeah. And you played in a solo band for a little bit too, right?
Yeah, I did. I did a US tour and I did a European tour. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How was that compared to the Murderdolls?
Oh, it was very different. Very different. Yeah. I mean, the Murderdolls were more of a band, even though Joey and Wednesday were the ones, that were the primary force behind it. We were definitely more of a band, and we were like five fingers on a fist with the Murderdolls. And Wednesday's band, it wasn't as much that way. And it was definitely more about the horror component and less about the pissed off sleaze fuck you that the Murderdolls had. So it's just different, but he's always, delivered 100%. I mean, one thing that I can't say enough about Wednesday is he always brings it. His voice always sounds great. I've never heard him have a bad night singing. Yeah.
Yeah. And like he has like that crazy, like high scream too. I don't understand how his vocal cords hold up.
I know. I know.
And so one of the other things that I was kind of thinking about going into this is just in light of you having played for Joan Jett and the Blackhearts for several years, was that kind of like a surreal experience to be part of that band at like comparably just like the insane level of like stardom that she has,
Yeah. Yeah, it was really awesome. Of course. But I mean, every gig that you do has its challenges, and I just heard somebody say not too long ago that every gig that you have is really an audition for your next gig. And in hindsight, that's really what that band was. I mean, it was hard. The first day I walked in, our sound guy goes to me, he goes, this is day one, right? He goes, up, here comes bass player number 472. And I said, I forget what I said. I said something to the effect of like, yeah, well, maybe the auditions that maybe I'm the one that stops the train or whatever, maybe I'm the one that maybe it ends here or something, kind of trying to be friendly a little bit. And he's like, don't doubt it. Don't get comfortable, because you won't be here long. And I was like, and this is my first day, and there was a lot of stuff that was really challenging about that gig, but everybody's a teacher. Joan was a great teacher, and the whole experience was very educational. And sure enough, man, I stayed in the band for 5-6 years, and I was there at a really good time to be there too. I mean, we did all the talk, the TV shows, Oprah, because Oprah was around, Oprah, The Tonight Show, you name it. We did all the TV shows. We toured South America in a private jet with the Foo Fighters. Like we did everything, and she's still continuing to go on that upwards trajectory again, So, and you got to remember, man, there was a time, she's had a very good career, and that she had the Runaways, right? She recorded her own album on her own dime, which was the I Love Rock and Roll record. took it to 27 record companies. 27 record companies said, we don't hear a hit single. So she said, fuck that. I'm putting it out on my own. She put it out on her own. And I Love Rock and Roll has become what I Love Rock and Roll is, you know? And then just like anybody who has a big hit, then it went down. Then all of a sudden she did Light of Day with Michael J. Fox and it went back up. And then after that, anything that had anything to do with the 80s was just not cool anymore. And, you know, she was playing clubs because it wasn't cool to be Joan Jett for 5 or 10 years. And she stuck it out, man. She hammered away. She stayed there. And I feel I'm lucky that I got there at the time where things were starting to go back up, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Cause I mean, between Ronda Rousey using Bad Reputation, I Love Rock and Roll, you know, resurfacing every few years, and Cherry Bomb being in like Guardians of the Galaxy, it's like there's this whole new generation of people that are just continually exposed to her over the last like decade or so.
But Carrie Underhill did what was the NFL song? Was it Bad Reputation, or I forget. The one, I think Carrie Underhill did a song for the NFL. I can't remember what it was.
Yeah, I can't remember either. Yeah, no, it's just one of those things where it's like when you play for someone who is like that much of an icon, how much more particular are they about how everything sounds from beginning to end of the set?
I mean, everybody's different, you know. Joan could be really picky sometimes and other times not as picky, you know. There's so many variables that go into how you you know, feel a show went, you know. Sometimes you can play terrible and the crowd goes freaking crazy and you're just in a good mood and having fun, and you know, and it's like that show wasn't that great, but we had a great time, you know. Other times it's like you can play good, but you're having a bad day and the crowd just isn't having it. It's like, oh, that show sucked, you know? So there's so many variables that can go into it. And yeah, everybody's different, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So before we started recording, you had mentioned the Addams Family. Where do you stand on sort of the Addams Family versus Munsters spectrum?
Oh, I'm more an Addams Family guy.
Yeah, I think I'm more of a Munsters person, just because I grew up watching that with my grandpa all the time.
Sure.
I was thinking about this last night, where it's like just comparatively between Herman Munster and Lily Munster and Gomez Addams and Morticia Addams, it's almost like the relationship roles in each of those couples are flip-flopped.
Yes.
It's
yes.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you can't really compare like just between Morticia Addams and Lily Munster if you're trying to like say who is like the better of the two of them. There's not really an apples to apples comparison.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. I love both shows. But Addams Family was first, I think, though. But well, it was certainly around before in a cartoon. So
yeah, because I think the Munsters was like One Network's response to the Addams Family or something like that.
Probably, yeah.
That's
the way it always goes, you know.
Yeah, there's this story that my grandpa used to tell me all the time about Grandpa Munster when I was a kid, where the actor who played him, I don't know why I'm blanking on his name.
Lewis.
Right. Yeah, he ran for, it was either mayor of New York City or governor of New York. And a reporter asked him at one point what his platform was. And he just looks at the guy totally straight faced and goes, "Solid oak." So one of the other things I wanted to ask you about was you had done motion capture for Rock Band 2 for, you know, one of the guitarists in the game. What was that experience like, just coming in as a musician to do that?
Well, kind of funny story around that. So I'm actually, if anybody plays Rock Band 2, I was the guitar player of the rock band and the singer of the punk band. And my friend Joe Letts, who's the drummer for the band Combi Christ, he got me the gig. And so I was leaving to go on tour with Wednesday for that European Wednesday tour that I was doing. And so we sorted it all out, and it was like, well, what's the pay scale? And they're like, well, it's $1,000 a day, but you're going to be 2 different actors, so you get $2,000 bucks. And I was like, fuck yeah, man, this is awesome, right? And all you got to do is they put you in a black spandex outfit with these little like Christmas balls all over it, and then you just play air guitar, and they would just play like all these different songs. I would just play air guitar all day long with a cardboard guitar, or lip sync it when I was doing the vocal stuff. And they would be like, all right, just pretend like you're Paul Stanley. Okay, just pretend like you're Iggy Pop, and it was fun. It was great. And on the lunch break, I would have lunch with the guy who was the president of the company. And we would talk, and he would be like, dude, I always wanted to play music, and just didn't work out for me. You're so lucky. And I'm like, well, yeah, I'm going on tour next week and blah, 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 thinking I'm sort of a big shot, and like, yeah, you guys are paying me $2,000 to be here, and blah, blah, blah. And so the video game comes out. It does so well that guy I was having lunch with got a $26 million bonus. And then all of a sudden I'm like, wait, I only got $2,000. I got ripped off. Man, it's funny how perception changes shit. I was so happy about that $2,000 till I found out he got 26 million.
Yeah, no, I can remember when that game came out. I was still in college, and everyone wanted to play it. It became like the party game.
Yeah, and it's funny. Like, I mean, it sold over 8 million copies, and I'll never forget. I went to a picnic or something that I was home visiting my mom. Her friend was having a picnic. She's like, will you go along? I was like, yeah. So I went, and some kids were playing the game, and my mom's like, oh my God, they're playing that game that you're in. And I'm like, well, you can't really tell it's me because they put the skins over it, And she's like, oh, let's go watch it. And I'm like, all right, cool. So I'm watching, and I can tell it's me. And my mom's like, you kids know that like this is that guy. And they look at me, and then they look at the character on the game. We look absolutely nothing alike because of the skins. It's all animated. And they're like, go back to playing the game. They didn't give a shit.
So yeah, circling back to Dope, what ended up bringing you back into the fold there?
Part of it had to, believe it or not, part of it had to do with Dimebag's passing. When Dimebag passed, that really was I don't know, I guess it was the first time any of us sort of dealt with any sort of mortality of musicians that we knew or could see how it would affect you. You know what I mean? And, Etzel and I just talked and we ironed things out, and then we didn't talk for a while, not because we weren't talking. We're busy with our lives. I was playing with Joan. And I think part of it was he saw that he respected the hard work that I put in, that I was able to continue playing music at a really high level. And, we would just talk from time to time. And then at one point he was like, hey man, I got these shows coming up, and Virus can't play guitar. Can you do these 3 shows? I was like, man, I'd love to do that. That would be cool. So I just filled in for those 3 shows, and now I'm sucked back in, but it's always with the understanding that like, he's awesome. If I have a Misfits gig come up, or if I have there's another band that I'm playing with right now that I haven't revealed yet. If I have gigs with them, he's always like, hey man, like if you have something that's a bigger thing come up, just let me know, and I'll find somebody to fill your spot. Just give me notice, So it's been great, man. It's been. I just got done doing 4 music videos for the new record, and so it's pretty exciting because my schedule, I think, is going to be clear for next year, and it's kind of the first time that we've done music videos for an album and a photo shoot for an album where the band that's in the videos is going to be the band that's going to be on the tour. So it feels really good. It's cool.
Yeah, and I talked to Matt Zane a little bit about filming one of those music videos. Did he do all
Yeah.
four of them?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah. So what can you tell us about the new album that's coming
Nothing.
out?
I don't know anything about it. Etzel recorded an album. That's what I can tell you about it. And it's good. How's that? That's
Yeah.
about all I know. I mean, it's always tough because Etzel writes and records everything, and it's always tough or weird to speak for the artist who did it. But what I can tell you is that the songs that I've heard are great. I really like it a lot. It's probably a little more versatile than the last record, than Blood Money, and it's cool, man. It's really cool. Etzel doesn't put out garbage, so
Yeah. I mean, I always forget that he's a multi-instrumentalist, but I guess he sat in as a session drummer for a few bands before too.
yeah. And not only that, but with Virus too. Like Virus is his right hand guy, and that's the downside. The thing is with the freedom that he gives me to play in other bands, he's like, yeah, but if you're not going to make a commitment to it, then I'm going to play on the record, or I'm going to hire other people to play on the record. Nothing personal, but I got to do what I got to do. So it's totally cool.
Yeah. I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I know you're a busy guy, but
Cool.
is there anything else you want to plug?
Nah, man, just Catfight Coffee. Please, if you love coffee, it's really, really good quality coffee. We try not to keep anything on the shelf for more than 2 weeks. If you go to Whole Foods, you'll find coffee that's been on the shelf for 3 months, which is okay. It hasn't gone bad at that point, but there's a freshness level that we really strive to achieve that other companies just can't do. And yeah, check that out. And I got my Patreon, which is a VIP behind the scenes backstage pass to my life and all my different bands that I play in. And I'm really excited for when I can announce the projects that I have for next year, but I can't get into it quite yet. So yeah, just check out my Patreon. That's Acey Slade, and check out Catfight Coffee.
Yeah, and I'll be sure to include links in the bio on the YouTube version of this too.
Oh, that would be great. And thank you so much, Roger. Like these things, go a long way. They're very helpful.
Yeah, thank you for taking the time today, Acey.
Yeah, absolutely. Got to talk about my favorite subjects, coffee and me.